we're here to talk about play to your strengths, real championship coaching. And what I'd like to do is start off with identifying what our team goal is for today. See, I believe that Joe Paterno is the greatest coach in America, football coach at Penn State University. Let me explain why. You see, Logan, my dad was a Pee Wee football coach who went 6 straight years without ever losing a Pee Wee football game. That's a pretty good winning streak, isn't it? 60-0. You know how he did it? He used to write to Penn State back in the 1960s when Joe Paterno was an assistant coach there and Rip Angle was the head coach. And my dad would ask for film, no videotape back then, no YouTube, just film, all right? He'd ask for film on proper blocking and tackling techniques. Well, they would send it to him. He'd take the dads down the den, and they would show all the different, how you block and tackle properly. They'd put together a drill sequence, and they would teach the fundamentals. Never lost a game for 6 years. Well, the last 2 things he would always say, and I played for him and coached under him, he'd always say, play hard and have fun. So for over 400 college basketball games as a head coach, the last 2 things I always said was play hard and have fun. Because my dad had taught me that. I begged, borrowed, and stole that from my dad. Well, so time goes along now. Let's now fast forward 30 years later to the early and mid 1990s. And my father, I knew his goal was that his son someday would be the head basketball coach at Penn State University. He loved that university. Never went there, but he loved that university, and he particularly liked Joe Paterno. Well, so I find out early in that year that my father has prostate cancer. Wasn't sure how long he was going to live. And so I knew what his ultimate goal was, and so I called Penn State University because I knew I wasn't going to get the job now, but maybe we could play on that court. And my dad could say, my son coached at Penn State. I thought it would be a nice gift to give him. It's amazing how fast a university will accept a game with you when you are the worst team in America. They were more than happy to play us, but we weren't the worst team in America anymore. We had been recruiting and surrounding myself with great assistant coaches and wonderful players. And so there I was preparing for the game 3 days before the game, 1 day before we leave for Penn State University. And all of a sudden my manager comes in the practice, middle of practice coach, there's a bunch of writers from Pennsylvania on the line. Apparently the coach for Penn State backed out of the interview. Could you step in and do it on short notice? I said, yeah, sure, I'd be glad to. I mean, I had great assistant coaches. I had great internal leadership from the team. They didn't need me. So I walked off the court and I did the interview. At the end of the interview, the sports information director says, Mark, stay on the line. So I did. Everybody hung up, and then he asked me a wonderful question. Is there anything I can do for you? Isn't that a great question? So I said, well, you know what? I explained about my father. He says, is there any way I could get a signed media guide from Joe Paterno, and I could give it to my dad for Christmas, which was a week away? He said, well, they're undefeated. They're going to the Rose Bowl. I don't even know if Coach Paterno's in town. I don't know if I can get to him. So that's fine. I said, just, if he's there, great. No big deal. So now, a day later, I'm down at Penn State. We're warming up, up top for the game. The guys are up there all working out and everything. And there I am down in the locker room. Well, as I'm standing there in the locker room, all of a sudden I hear a knock on the door. I open the door, and there's Joe Paterno, the head football coach at Penn State University, standing right in my locker room. I'm now panicked. I'm stumbling all over myself for words now. I can't quite get it out. I'm so excited. So Joe Paterno, you're here. My dad. He says, Mark, settle down. He says to me, he goes, let me ask you a question. How's your dad doing? I said, Coach, he's really doing good. Thank you. He said, I've got another question for you, Mark. How did your dad go 6 consecutive years without ever losing a football game? Even the greatest football coach in America was wanting to beg, borrow, and steal ideas from a Pee Wee football coach from back in the 1960s. Isn't that something? Well, I said, actually, Coach, Penn State had something to do with it. I explained about the film exchange back in the 60s. Coach Paterno's got these big old glasses, okay? And his eyes are big anyway. They look big anyway. And they got huge. They got like as big as saucers. And all of a sudden I could see just processing this information. He goes, wait a minute, let me ask you something. He said, was that a little Catholic parochial school, a little public school, a little Catholic parochial school down in Cincinnati? I said, yes, sir. He said, well, do you know who sent out the film back then when Rip Angle was the head coach? He said, I did. He said, the reason I remember because your dad was the only Pee Wee football coach to ever ask for film. Isn't that something? Now our team comes in. And their eyes are as big as saucers because now Joe Paterno, they know why we're here. I explained to them why we're playing this game. And so we had Coach Paterno right there. And they're excited because we had worked on our pregame introductions that they were not only going to be introduced, but they were going to be waving to Coach Paterno. And we had worked on it. Okay, so now he's in our locker room. I turned to Coach Paterno and said, I don't want you to betray Penn State, but it would be my father's greatest thrill if you addressed his son's team before we played today. He said, Mark, I'd be glad to. And this is what he said. He said, men, I'm 70 years old. As an 18-year-old young man, I'm not sure I understood the opportunity to play at a place like Penn State today, at the greatest university, in front of the greatest fans, in the greatest conference. Do you understand your opportunity today? You see, you can show that you understand the opportunity by doing two things. Not for me, not for Coach Adams, but for each other. So today, when you play at the greatest university in America, and the greatest conference in America, the Big Ten, in front of the greatest fans in America, the Nittany Lion Nation, you will show that you understand the opportunity by doing two things for each other. So go out there tonight and play hard and have fun. I never knew that my dad had begged, borrowed, and stole that from a Rip Angle book back in the late 1950s. And that Joe Paterno obviously had stolen it as well. And I had stolen it from all of them. My players looked at me like I actually knew what I was talking about. And we went out and we played hard. And we had fun. We were no longer the worst team in America. We were the most improved team in the country over a 2-year period. Now, to be fair, when you're the worst team, there's a lot of ways to go, so it really wasn't that hard. It came right down to it. But we come down the stretch with a 3-point lead with 3 minutes to go. But as happens when you're on the road in the Big Ten, and Frank and Jesse James are the referees, my 7'3" kid fouled out, and we lost on a last-second shot, but we played hard and we had fun. I went in the locker room, and yes, I congratulated my team on a tremendous effort. And that's the way we were going to play throughout my tenure at Central Connecticut State University. We were going to play hard, and we were going to have fun together, just like Coach Paterno said. And we were the most improved team in the country, and I was proud of it, Phil. I walked out of that locker room. I'm going down to do my post-game interview. I get to the door, and all of a sudden I hear Mark, and I see a 70-year-old man. And he's running as fast as he can. And he comes up and says, Mark, Merry Christmas. And he hands me a media guide. And I opened it up and said, to Patrick Adams, my dad, the greatest football coach in America, sincerely, Joe Paterno. So, our goal is very, very simple today. Let's follow the greatest football coach in America. Beg, borrow, and steal every idea you can from each other here for the next 75 minutes or so. And let's play hard and have fun. All right? Are you ready? Yeah. All right, let's get rolling now. So those are our goals for today. First, I want to scout you. Being an old coach, I always want to scout my audience a little bit. So I'm asking you right now, from these 3 statements, which of these 3 statements best describes your coaching philosophy? Number 1, coaches should primarily help you to work on and improve on your weaknesses. Number 2, coaches should primarily help you to work on and improve on your strengths. Or, number 3, coaches should help you to maintain your strengths while improving on your weaknesses. Raise your hand, please, if your coaching philosophy is best described as coaches should primarily help you to work on and improve on your weaknesses. Raise your hand. 0. Number 2, coaches should primarily help you to work on and improve on your strengths. Raise your hand, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so 8 out of 18. So 10 of you feel that coaches should help you to maintain your strengths while improving on your weaknesses. Okay? So 8 in the middle, 0, 8, and 10. Very good.